Let go and hold on. Turn to your neighbor and tell him, let go and hold on. It is an oxymoron. They contradict each other, but you cannot have balance without both. Because if you choose to live your life only doing one or the other, for example, like letting go all the time or holding on all the time, then you will have instability, to put it lightly. One without the other is destructive. One without the other is damaging. You see, we must exit our past and enter into our future. However, in doing so, we cannot let go of everything, yet we cannot hold on to everything. That is our conundrum. That is the tension that we are all faced with at different points of our life. What do we let go of, and what do we hold on to? We must learn the healthy ways, the healthy moments, and the healthy time in which we either need to let go or hold on. Today's message is titled, Let Go and Hold On. Please open your Bibles to Joshua chapter 1. The first thing that we need to be clear on is that success is not cheap. Success is not cheap. Turn to your neighbor and tell them success is not cheap. There is no such thing as a bargain success. Success never goes on sale. Success will always cost full price. There will be no shortcuts, no cutting of corners, no back doors, no fell off the truck, no everything must go sale. If one wants a full kind of success, one must pay full price. Now, when I say success, I mean all forms of success. A successful marriage is not cheap. Successful relationships, be it employer relationships, friendships, family relationships, they are not cheap. Good ones anyway. Growth is not cheap. Advancement is not cheap. Wholeness is not cheap. Victory is not cheap. Mastery is not cheap. Breakthrough is not cheap. We must settle the fact that whatever you would like to be successful in, be it your marriage, your wholeness, or your career, or all of the above, you must settle that whatever God calls you to do in those areas will go over what you budgeted. You see, we always want to go under budget with the cost, right? Oh, I want to have a great relationship, but I don't want to pay the cost of changing. I'd like to have a successful friendship, but I don't want to pay the cost of being a loyal, loving, trustworthy friend. I'd like to say I'm sorry and that I love you and that I miss you, but I don't want to pay the cost of my pride or ego. Ego. You know, the ego is the biggest little thing we will ever see. Again, success is not cheap. Anything valuable is worth full price. It is worth the cost. That is part of what makes it valuable. You see, you give your valuables for what is valuable. So we must understand that in order to be successful in an area, the cost may be to let go of something in that specific area, or the cost may be to hold on to something in that specific area. Either way, it will be full price. And knowing what to let go of and what to hold on to is crucial. Because if you hold on to the wrong thing and you let go of the wrong thing, there will be no success in that specific area. And here's the thing. When God calls us, he never omits the cost, just the opposite. Jesus said, count the cost. Whew. Count the cost. The Lord will tell us that what he has sent us to purchase is going to be costly. We'll see that in a minute. But you must believe that God will also give you the provision to complete the vision. See, God will always give you the provision to complete the vision. Joshua, a young man, unexperienced, however, he was called. Unexperienced, however, he was a learner, an extremely important trait to have. Unexperienced, however, he was willing, another extremely important trait to have. He had to do something different. Joshua had to do what his predecessors would not do. He had to walk into a set of traditions, a setting of ways, a setting of comfort, a setting of familiar, a setting of thinking, a setting of no-nos, and turn around and say, yes, Lord, I will break the norm. And so today, I believe, by the mighty grace of God, you are going to break some norms. You will use your specific provision to complete God's specific vision for you. You're about to exit something and enter something else. You are about to break some sort of pattern. And so let's begin by looking at the call and the cost. Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 9. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving to them, the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you. As I said to Moses, drop down to 5. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. God is about to tell Joshua the same thing 3 times. 6, be strong and of good courage. For to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. 2nd time, only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? 3rd time, be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Whew! 3 times. 3 times God says the same thing to Joshua. Be strong and of good courage. And each time he adds a different facet to it. The book of Joshua has so many essentials, applications, and golden nuggets. The truth is, we cannot extract them all in one sitting. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the cliff notes of the story and pull some applications, and then we're gonna go back to the beginning, to what I just read, because that's our text today. That's where we're gonna land. So let's keep going. Joshua chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out 2 men from Achaia Grove to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, especially Jericho." So they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." So it seems like the spies are being spied on, or there's a snitch. Either way, it's okay. So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country." Then the woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. And it happened as the gate was being shut when it was dark, that the men went out. Where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them." But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. We don't have time to break this down, but the Bible tells us that Rahab hid them in stalks of flax. That's a beautiful metaphor. You see, flax is what linen is made of. And linen was the clothing of priests. And so she brought them up and covered them, hid them with priestly garments. That speaks. But let's talk a little bit about Rahab. Rahab is also evidence on how God can use anyone to be a part of your breakthrough, to be a part of the team, to be a part of a God-given vision, even a harlot. A harlot waiting to be freed. Nonetheless, a harlot that was willing to pay full price. Do you know what the king would have done to her if he knew she hid those men? You see, Rahab contributes to this victory. Oh, she plays a role. And she didn't look for a sale to do it. She paid full price. Let's skip down to chapter 3, verse 5. And Joshua said to the people, "Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." Most of us know that sanctify means to set apart. But it's important to understand that you must set yourself apart for what God has set apart for you. You must set yourself apart for what God has set apart for you. You can't do what everyone else is doing. You can't say what everyone else is saying. You can't think like everyone else is thinking. You can't get wrapped up in all the minutia and distractions that everyone else is getting wrapped up in. We've got to have the capacity to let go of the common and hold on to the rare. You see, God has set apart a wonder for you, and you must set yourself apart for that wonder. Let's keep going. Verse 7. And the Lord said to Joshua, "This day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know, as I was with Moses, so I will be with you." Here is something that people sometimes get tripped up on in the journey. And for some people, they get so tripped up that it totally derails them. Totally. And that is trying to prove your place, trying to prove your space, trying to prove your validity. You don't need anyone to validate you. If God has validated you, who can invalidate you? And so sometimes you must let go of what people think and say and hold on to what God says. You don't need to prove anything to people. God will prove it. You saw what he said? That they may know. Think about it. God thought about this. That they may know. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Isn't it a beautiful thing? A beautiful thing to know that God is in charge of your public relations. Woo! God is your PR agent. What God does for you will be so undeniable that they have to say only God could have done that. Not by might, nor by power, but only by the Spirit of God could that have happened. When God says, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of ... You know, to exalt means to raise in rank, to raise in quality, to raise in character. You know, the important things. You see, we're not talking about the superficial puffing up that people do. Here's what you got to know. You don't need anyone to approve your size. You don't need anyone to approve your size. In other words, if God made you big in that area, be big. When God raises your rank, raises your quality, raises your character, it will go over some people's head. They cannot understand it because they're not at your level. Let them talk. The truth is, sometimes they've got nothing going on with their life, so they got to talk about yours. It's okay. Bye, Felicia. Listen, God will raise you above wherever anyone tries to slot you. Nobody gets to slot you. That's God's job. It will be crystal clear that because God was with you, he raised you over that thing. And because God was with you, he raised you over that situation. And you know, success looks different for all of us. And so you don't need anyone to approve or define what your success looks like. You don't need anyone to approve or try to define what God is doing for you and through you. Oh, they will know. Trust me, they'll know. You need not try to validate yourself. That's God's job. But be sure of this, the devil will always know that God is with you. The devil may not understand it, but he'll know it. He may not admit it, but he'll know it. Let's keep going. Chapter 4:23. For the Lord your God dried up the rivers of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. As the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over. This is so good. Y'all ain't ready for this. You see, God splits only two bodies of water in the Bible. The Red Sea and the Jordan River. He split the Red Sea for their ancestors, and now he split the Jordan River for them. The Red Sea was between their physical bondage and their physical freedom. And God split the Red Sea to physically free them from Pharaoh. But although they were physically free, we see this often, unfortunately, they remain psychologically and spiritually in bondage. And so now the Jordan River was in between their spiritual and psychological bondage and their spiritual and psychological freedom. Listen carefully. The Jordan River was what their ancestors could not cross over because of what they could not let go. But now we had a leader. And now we have a people that were willing to let go of what they needed to let go of. And so now God splits the Jordan River. You see, when you are willing to let go of whatever it is you need to let go of, be sure of this. God will split whatever he needs to split in order to get you to the other side. God will divide whatever mass is in your way. God will dry up whatever threatens to drown you in order to get you to where he said you're gonna go. You see, when God sends you to do something, the devil will always try to send something to drown you. But God will dry that thing right up. Dry it up. Let's keep going. Joshua 5, 6, 7. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people who were men of war who came out of Egypt were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of the Lord, to whom the Lord swore that he would not show them the land which the Lord had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he, God, raised up in their place. See, here's the gist of it. It was all because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. But look at the last line. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he, God, raised up in their place. You see, when someone is disobedient to what God tells them to do, God will raise someone else up in their place. That is why it is so important for you to stay your course. Stand in your place. Don't try to validate it. Stand strong in your place, because whoever is in your life or in your circle that is being disobedient to what God has set apart for you, God will raise someone else up in their place. The work is gonna get done with or without them. God will raise a people for the purpose, always. That is why it is so important to set yourself apart. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Do not allow someone else's turning to turn you. Because did you see what God just told us? Their disobedience consumed them. You see, Joshua and crew are entering a land that they should have already had if their ancestors were obedient. If the children of Israel would have let go of what they needed to let go of, they would have been able to hold on to what was set apart for them. Listen, disobedience consumed their wonder. That's a powerful thought. It consumed their wonder. It consumed what was set apart for them. God raised up another people. And so one of the questions I have for you today is, are you the other people? Are you the other people? Are you supposed to be obedient to something that someone before you was not in? Here's something that I live by. And that is, when we understand the moment, then we understand that we were raised for the moment. When we understand the moment that we are in, then we understand that we were raised for this moment. Next, Joshua 6, 14, 16. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. But it came to pass on the seventh day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day only they marched around the city 7 times. And the 7th time it happened, when the priest blew the trumpets, that Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." Now we see the power of obedience. You see, they followed directions to the T. But here's the interesting thing. God instructs Joshua to instruct the people to shout before the victory, to shout and bring the victory, to shout and watch the walls fall, to shout and watch the promise unfold, to shout and march into your place, to shout and see that the Lord is so good. Because you see, there will be times, and there are times in your life that you're gonna have to shout victory before the victory. You're gonna have to shout victory before victory. This last verse is after the victory. You know, a lot of people think about the process, the journey, and that's very important. You need a lot of wisdom in the beginning, in the middle, when you get the victory. But you need lots of wisdom after the victory. And so here is what Joshua is telling the people. Joshua 6:26-27. Then Joshua charged them, the people, at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man before the Lord, who rises up and builds this city, Jericho." Drop down to 27. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout all the country. So the Lord was with Joshua. So the Lord was with Joshua. I shall never leave you nor forsake you. All through his life. But Joshua also never left God. But before we go back to the beginning to move forward, there's an important principle I want to touch on here. That's so important before you exit and enter anything. And that is, do not try and rebuild what God has torn down. Do not try and rebuild what God has torn down. Cursed be the man before the Lord who rises up and builds this city, Jericho. You see, God knows that sometimes people try and force their way, make their way, but God warns them, accept it and do not try and erect it. Jericho's time was done. God had brought its walls down for a reason. And Joshua understood that. Joshua understood God brought it down, and you will be cursed if you try to rebuild what God has torn down. That is not what God sent me to do. That is not why we're here. I'm not even going there. And if you observe carefully, you will see that principle throughout the Bible over and over again. When God says, exit that so you can enter this, be sure to exit and enter. When God says, let it go, let it go. When God brought those walls down, whatever those walls were for you, do not try and rebuild them. That's what prevented the initial promised ones to lose it. Again, that is what caused God to raise up another people in their place, because they would not let go of what they needed to let go of. You see, it is disrespectful to God to put down a gift that he has given you so you can pick up the garbage that he just rescued you from. Woo! I cannot say this enough. Trust me, this will help you. Do not ever try to rebuild what God has torn down. Listen, I don't question the master architect. Never have, never will. Because I honor God. I fear him. I respect him. I love him and I trust him. Enough said, don't need to tell me twice. Because if God tore it down or let it fall, it is not because he's asking you to rebuild the same house. Think about it. It is only because he is building something completely new. And to the degree that you let go will be the degree of how high you go. And so the other question now is, what do we need to enter? What do we need to hold on to? Here is Joshua and the chosen generation. They knew what to let go of and what to hold on to. See, they had a Jordan River that they had to cross, but that didn't stop them. God split that river for them. God made them walk on dry land to go over the river. Be sure not to swim back. Don't try and take a raft back to where God just split a river to bring you out of. I mean, you've got to think about them. Think about them. They had to get out of all the comfort that they knew. This was where they were raised as home. That was all they knew. This was their entire life that they had to get up and walk away from, that they had to get up and let go of. But that didn't stop them. Then they had to march around once every day for 6 days without saying a word. Sometimes you just be quiet and move. Move and be quiet. Keep it going without saying a word. Sounds a bit crazy. It was different, that's for sure, but that didn't stop them. Then on the 7th day, 7 means completion, perfection, maturity. In other words, the right time. The right time. Ooh. Somebody's waiting for the right time. And the right time is coming, baby. But there is a time. There is a time, so you wait. And then they had to walk around, march 7 times at the right time, and then shout victory before the victory, but that didn't stop them either. You see, they most certainly had to let go of some things and hold on to some things in order for them to accomplish what they accomplished. So now, let's go back to the beginning so we can move forward. 3 times, God tells Joshua the same thing: be strong and courageous, be strong and of good courage. 3 times. And each time, he adds a different facet. Let's go to number 1, Joshua 1:6. Be strong and of good courage. For to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Notice God gives the vision for the mission. You shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. God tells Joshua, you are going to get the inheritance and you are going to divide amongst them what they have no idea has been left for them. You see, God will never send you on a mission with no vision. God will never send you on a mission with no vision. Sometimes the problem is some people go on a mission trying to borrow somebody else's vision. But that vision wasn't given to them. And so they end up trying all kinds of crazy missions to try and steal a vision. But here's what I want you to know for your specific vision and mission, is that no one can snatch God's vision for you from you. No one can snatch God's vision for you from you. If God gave you the vision, only you can see it. If God gave you the vision, only you have access to it. Woo! If God gave you the vision, only you know what to do with it. If God gave you the vision, he also gave you the wherewithal to fight for it, to persevere through it, to flourish in it, to sustain it, to prosper it, and to have some good success in it. 3 times. Here's the third. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. In other words, come hell or high water, come blessings or victory, I am there wherever you go. God reassures Joshua, all you need to know is that I am with you. But this is what you need to do. Know and do. You see, some people know things, but they don't do them. And some people do things that they don't know. This is about obedience. And victory comes through faith in God and obedience to his word. You see, with victory, there is an and. Faith in God and obedience to his word. You see people pouting. I want it like this. I want it like that. I want what she got. I want what he got. I want that. Obedience is not obedience when it's easy. And obedience is not obedience when it's what you want to do. Listen, God knows what you need. We want a lot of things, but we don't know what we need. And when you know what you need, when he gives you what you need, you got what you want. Okay? Here's my definition of obedience. Obedience is doing what you don't want to do and doing it as though you did. God says, all you need to know is that I am with you, and these are the things you need to do. Have I not commanded you? Commanded. In other words, have I not instructed you? Have I not directed you? Have I, God, whom has all authority, given you authority to carry something out? Have I not charged you with the completion of something? Have I not entrusted you with the building of something? Have I not commanded you? Another way to put it is, my word should be sufficient. It should be sufficient. 3 times, be strong and of good courage. And this is interesting because most people would think that being strong and having good courage are synonymous, but they're not. God makes it clear they are not the same thing, and you need them both. You see, you can see a strong person who is not courageous for good. You can see a strong person who is not courageous for good. They can endure things, but not confront them. They can endure toxicity, but not remove it. They can endure the generational dysfunctions, but never change it. They can endure the abusive relationship, but never leave it. They can endure the consequence of their bad behavior, but they are too cowardly to confront themselves. You see, some people would rather endure a familiar bad than to pay the full price of an unknown good. And that's because they think they're getting a sale. Now, I love me some sales. I do. I'm always at the sale rack. I love a good deal. But there are some things you must pay full price for. And they think they're getting a sale. 50% off, 70% off, but you're not buying the real Louis Vuitton bag. You're buying the knockoff at Canal Street. Oh, it looks like a real Louis Vuitton from a distance. But if you get a little close, if you look at the stitching, when you know what a real Louis Vuitton bag possesses, when you go to see what it's made of, it's not made of the same fabric, it's a knockoff. And knockoffs cannot withstand what the real thing can. Hey! Right? God made your fabric. And what he's calling you to do requires your real fabric. So people could try to knock you off, but it's you he called. You got the fabric. You see, knockoffs cannot withstand what the real thing was made for. It doesn't have the fabric. Knockoffs cannot produce what the real thing can. Knockoffs eventually get knocked out because it was an illusion, a decorative front. Whoo, a decorative front. Oh. That one, a decorative front. I sat with that one for a while. I was like, man, thank you, Jesus, that is so good. And you cannot have a knockoff relationship. You cannot have a decorative front of a marriage. You cannot have a knockoff calling. You cannot have a decorative front of good work ethic. Those things will be tested and tried. You cannot have knockoff integrity, knockoff loyalty, knockoff wholeness. A knockoff is nothing but a decorative front, decor. There's nothing behind it. They cannot produce what the real thing produces. Let me ask you a question. Can you get seed from plastic fruit? Woo! Can you get seed from that thing? It looks good from a distance. In fact, it shines more than the real thing. Woo! Not everything that shines is jewelry, baby. From a distance, get a little close. Hollow. Nothing. Nothing. Try to bite into that thing. It only looks like what it wants to be. Looks like what it wants to be. It has no seed. It cannot produce or reproduce. Nothing. That is why God says you need to be both strong and of good courage. Notice he said good courage. To say of good courage is to indicate origin, source. It is to indicate cause, motive, reason. All courage is not good. We're seeing it a little too much. All courage is not good. Sometimes we see people do courageous things, if you want to call it that, with a bad motive. And just because someone is courageous does not mean they're strong. Again, it is why God kept telling Joshua over and over and over again, be both strong and of good courage. Tell the person next to you, be strong and of good courage. Now turn back to that person and say, I am strong and of good courage. See, we've got to make sure that the origin, the cause, the motive, and the reason are always good. Because then you will persevere. God tells us, then you will make your way prosperous. And nobody can prosper you better than God. And then you will have good success. Good success. Here it is again. God adds another good to a word. And it's funny because he adds the word good to words that we automatically think they are good, like success. And God does that because there is such a thing as bad success and good success. There is such a thing as bad courage and good courage. Again, not all success is good and not all courage is good. And God is a good God. And so everything that comes from God must have a good attached to it. Show me the good. Like I always say, if it ain't good, hold up a minute. God ain't done. Listen, God will always finish his work. Did he not say they were going to inherit it? God continues when everything else seems to stop. Can I get a witness? He continues. Listen, where Moses ended, the Holy Spirit picked it up and continued it in Joshua. Don't you ever believe the stop. There is no stop with God. God will complete what he says he will. So you may have to let something go because it stopped. You may have to let something go because it ended. You may have to move on because something passed on. Hey, that may have stopped, but something glorious just started. God will pick up your stop and build your start with it. God will pick up your stop and build your start with it. You see, sometimes certain people have to leave you so that someone else can love you. Sometimes some people have to abandon you so that someone else can cherish you. Sometimes that had to go so that that can come. Sometimes you had to lose that so that you would seek God. And how we let go of certain things in our life is important. Sometimes the failure is not because you didn't let go, but because you held on to something that you were supposed to let go of. Listen, if God gives you a burning bush, don't ask for a sign. I never get that. If God tells you to pick up your mat and walk, don't stay seated. If God tells you to walk on water, don't look at the waves. There are going to be waves there. You're in water. If God tells you he is not dead, but he is risen, stop going to the grave. If God tells you to let it go, let it go. And someone needs to hear this. You can only go where you are supposed to go. There's a supposed to for you. You can only go where you are supposed to go when you let it go. Whatever your it is. Joshua and crew had to think differently than their ancestors did in order to inherit what their ancestors were supposed to. They couldn't think the same way because that pattern of thinking is what kept them there. You see, their ancestors never let go of Egypt, and so Egypt's bondage never let go of them. There's a saying. You can take a person out of bad, but you can't take the bad out of the person. You can take a person out of toxicity, but you cannot take the toxicity out of the person. I think we've all experienced this. You know, this person was around some crazy. You take them out of that environment, you put them around you, a good environment. Next thing you know, they're spewing all kinds of toxicity, you know, all kinds of crazy. You got to go. The toxicity is in you. That saying is very true because no one else can do that for you. And what they mean is this: you can take the person out of toxicity, but that person has got to take the toxicity out of themselves. No matter how much a person loves you, trust me, you can love someone till they're blue. You can want the best for them until you're purple, but you cannot do the letting go for them. like no one else can do your letting go. That is their job and theirs alone, like our letting go is ours alone. And before you can enter certain things in your life, you must be willing to exit other things in your life. I'd like to go back to something else that God said. God tells us, do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. You know, nothing beats failure but a try. And you cannot be afraid to try. And you cannot be dismayed to try. Afraid and dismayed. Another pair of words that at first glance, they seem similar. Afraid is fearful, and dismayed is saddened. Do not be fearful, and do not be saddened. The cost. Oh, the cost. What is the cost? It will always be full price. You see, if you're still looking for a sale, you're not ready. You want to know how you know that you're ready? When you're ready to pay full price. You see, what God is saying is, you're going to have to do some things afraid. You're going to have to face some fearsome things. Fearsome. Look them right back in the eyes. You're going to have to do some things that will make you sad. Shred your heart. Shattered. And you're going to have to keep doing things while you're dismayed, shattered. I'm in pain, Lord, but I got to keep going. I'm broken, but I got to keep going. That looks scary, but I'm going to face it. Because the truth is, you must counter everything, all things, with one thing, with one infallible fact, with one unchanging truth, and that is the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That gives me peace. I do what I gotta do. He's with me. And this is where the hold on comes in. Have you ever had something that you just couldn't let go of? Have you ever had something you just couldn't let go of? God didn't let me let go. God didn't let you let go. I should have, but I couldn't. I should have. I had every right to, but I couldn't. I should have, but I'm so glad I didn't. Because when you hold on to those things, you will see something beautiful. Beautiful. Because God is counting on your faithfulness. He's counting on your holding on. God didn't let me let go. He didn't let me let go. It's like the song many years ago, Jennifer Holliday, Dream Girls. And I am telling you, I'm not going. I'm not going. And on a serious note, sometimes that's what you got to tell the devil. Speak it, sing it, jump it, run it, do whatever you got to do, swing at it. I'm not going. No. Oh, it's scary, but I'm holding on. Oh, it breaks my heart, but I'm still going to hold on. I have decided to follow Jesus. I'm going to hold on to my Jesus. I have decided to let that go and hold on to this. And I don't need you to agree with me, devil. I don't need you to see what I see. I don't need you to validate me. I don't need you to approve what has been set apart for me. Devil, you are not my benefactor. Woo! Jesus is my benefactor. Yes, yes, yes. I'm letting go of that. And I'm going to hold on to this. Yes, I said it. And yes, I meant it. I'm letting go of your abuse, and I'm going to hold on to my wholeness. Yes, I said it, and yes, I meant it. I'm letting go of those chains, and I'm going to hold on to my freedom. Yes, I said it, and yes, I meant it. I'm letting go of that small place you keep trying to confine me to, and I'm going to hold on to that grand place God has set apart for me. Yes, I said it, and yes, I meant it. I'm going to let go of those 40 years behind us, and I'm going to hold on to the 100 in front of us. Yes, I said it. Yes, I meant it. Listen. If God said you're going to get there. If God said you're going to get there. Start packing your bags, get your outfits, get ready for the new position. Because if God said you're going to get there. And here's the thing. We in this house, we're going to shout the victory before the victory. We're going to shout the victory before the victory, during the victory, after victory. We're going to shout the victory. Shout! Shout! For the Lord has brought down those walls. Shout! For the Lord has brought you over. Shout! For the Lord has split a river for you. Shout! For the Lord has taken down devils for you. Shout! For the Lord has set apart a wonder for you.